Oh, whew. Here we are, our November call. Uh, as I was saying last month, it's kind of interesting to realize that without even trying to do so, the theme of the month is basically a perfect continuation of the exact same theme we worked on last year. In October last year, we worked on soul fragments, and our theme last month touched upon that in a different way, but still directly related to it. And the month after, in November, we had worked on ancestral memories. And tonight we're working on the 5 gates of grief. And as you will see, as I start talking about them, ancestral memories is one of those 5 gates. So there really is some, there's like an intelligence to there's like an energetic intelligence to the calendar, like certain seasons represent certain energy processes. And even within these seasons, each of the months kind of has a built-in energy seeking to be brought up to consciousness. So I had a flash during our second call of the month, last month, that 5 gates of grief was going to be our theme this month. And I just want to give you a little un aperçu, a little words. The 5 gates of grief is a concept that Francis Weller came up with. It is from an incredibly beautiful and powerful book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. And he's a psychotherapist in California, probably somewhere, and he's specialized in sorrow and helping people through deep grieving of things like terminal illnesses and stuff like that. So throughout his time as a psychotherapist, he came to realize a couple of things that led him to create this idea of the 5 gates of grief. And the main thing that he came to realize is that out of everyone that came to see him that were like, I'm suffering from depression, the more he would talk with them, the more he became aware and started transforming his approach towards depression as one of talking instead of oppression. Like, you're not really depressed, you're oppressed. You are experiencing the energy of oppression of a whole bunch of unresolved sorrow that is weighing on your heart. And I was like, wow, because we think of depression like, oh, I don't have any momentum. And it's like, meanwhile, it's because you're carrying like 18 tons of weight on your heart. And most of that heart is related to things that you never processed. So the next thing he started realizing is that out of these energies that haven't been processed, almost 90% of them aren't even ours. They're not even ours personally. They are what we carry, as beings that are connected to everything, whether or not we're like living on the little tip of the iceberg and we think that reality is just what we see up here, and all of this under the water goes kind of like, nope, that's not really there. I don't see it. I don't feel it. The reality is that we are still all of that, and we still feel all of that. So two big key pieces for him was realizing that it's not really depression, it's oppression. And the only way to truly heal that is to allow ourselves to process the grief. So, okay, fine, right on. Good up to now. Grief doesn't just mean like, grief isn't just crying. Grief goes way beyond that. Grief can be experienced as something where you are angry or sad or, moving a lot or completely still. Like, it's not, this is what we do with our little analytical brains. We're like, grieving equals crying, and it's like, no, so grieving isn't an emotion. It's an interesting one to work with. Like a lot of emotions can be generated by the process of grieving, but the ability to grieve is actually a human faculty. Like, just sit with this for a second. Your human faculties to feel, to think, you know, to grieve, this is at the same level as the other ones. It is a process, it is a faculty that we have as humans where we're trying to bring back together the wholeness of the psyche. To truly grieve is to make whole again. To truly grieving is the faculty of a human in order to process loss. And loss, how can I say this, is all pervasive. It's all pervasive. You don't get to keep anything, And that's actually the first gate of grief. Everything you love, you will lose. It's like, how? No. And that gate, at least that gate, is actually recognized by society at large. You lose a parent, your child dies in an accident, your cat dies, you lose a job you really loved, you move out of your family home. All of that is recognized by our very unspiritual society. That gate, most of us are not only aware of it, but have support within society to help us through that one. Friends help us out and give us a shoulder to cry on. We hang out with people. We have a process of coming to terms with what happened. I'm thinking about these 5 stages that Carolyn Weiss talks about. That would be an interesting one to do too. But like the anger, denial, whatever, all the way to acceptance, right? So that gate is known in our world, and we somewhat have support channels to deal with it. But then as we start going into the deeper gates, they go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the unconscious, deeper into the part of the iceberg that's submerged in the water. The second gate, this one, I've been working with this for 3 weeks. I'm just like bawling my eyes out and working on so many things coming up. I'm like, thank you. And oh my God, hopefully this makes it easier to go through the process for everyone else that I'm holding in this container. The second one is the grief of all the places that have not known love. The places that have never known love. I'm stable enough to talk about this. For most of us, we could bring this back to just being the parts of us that were put down in the dungeons, the parts of us that we decided were unlovable and unworthy, the parts of us that were shamed, the parts of us that we learned to hate and not want to allow them to exist. I would go even further than that, because for me, that touches on even deeper stuff for me, as I was working with that gate, all I could feel and connect with are the people that have never known love. Like, that's so sad. Like people that grew up in abusive environments and, that never got to have someone hold them with tenderness, or someone look at them and just really let them know, I see you. For me, that touches me even deeper. But fundamentally, that gate is about the shadows within yourself that you refused to love and hold, and eventually kind of like left somewhere down there in a dumpster. And they're still hoping that one day you'll come back and see them and hold them. So that the first one, everything you love, you will lose. That one we're all consciously aware of. And then the places that have never known love, we can almost kind of remember deciding that they didn't deserve love and stuffing them down in that first layer of the iceberg under the water. For some of us that have done shadow work, we're already aware of some of these parts. We've even given them names and have worked with bringing them back. And then the three deeper gates. Now we're going deeper into the collective energy. The sorrows of the world is gate number 3. The sorrows of the world. All the pain and suffering happening in the world right now. You know, whether you are consciously aware of it or not, your psyche is connected to everything. Your psyche feels the pain of, you know, species going extinct and oceans being polluted and habitats being destroyed. That's all part of us, whether or not we're consciously aware of it. You know, entire cultures undergoing genocide now, right now in our world, not just like 50 years ago or 2000 years ago. So the sorrows of the world, that's another level, another gate of grief that most of us need to process. And it makes me laugh when I think about people that are like, well, that's not mine. That's not mine. I didn't do that. It's like, yeah, well, excuse me, but your psyche is connected to everything and it is feeling all of that. Gate number 4, what we expected but did not receive. The unrealized hopes, the unmet expectations, everything that we expected and did not receive. And this one goes deep. Like we could look at that just through the eyes of ego and be like, well, you know, like I thought I was gonna have a mom that would have celebrated me and you know, but she ended up being a narcissistic, blah, blah, blah. But that's where we're staying too close to the ego, because this goes way deeper than that. This goes like all the way to being born in a society where you are reduced to your ability to make profit, when at the soul level, you know that you come here to share your unique gifts. Like, it's like, it's a whole other level of expectations that aren't getting met. You know, like we're divine beings. As souls, we come here, all we want to do is share. We want to share this unique energy that is us, that we want to bring into the world and contribute to unity and harmony and love and joy. And you know, even within the family context of walking up to one of your parents when you're still a very young child and you're so connected to your essence, and you just want to share that with them, and you start having the very traumatic experience of realizing that they don't see you. They don't really see you. They tell you what you need to do to be a good girl or a good boy, but they don't see you. And when you're trying to look at their souls, so gate number 4, what we expected and did not receive. And gate number 5, ancestral grief. Also known as transgenerational trauma. There's a great quote in one of the articles I was reading about 5 gates of grief, and it said, "What is not transformed is transmitted." And that pretty much sums up ancestral grief. What our ancestors were not able to transform and transcend and heal is transmitted to the next generation. No, and there's a lot of stuff in there. You know, there's not only the pain of, you know, the pain of a bleeding heart, you know, watching its culture be decimated or made into slaves, but also the other flip side of that, of of having that heart bleed and hurt so much that you close it, and then you become one of the enslavers, you know? So these are the two flip sides of this ancestral grief and the ancestral traumas. Either just, it's like a broken heart that's bleeding out, or it's a heart that has such a hard metallic shell around it that it's not able to feel anymore, and it is actually breaking other hearts and making them bleed, which is hard stuff to process, even if we can understand, like, oh my God, I did that because I was in so much pain. And I am talking about like a big capital I, like not you in this life right now. We can understand that. It doesn't mean that it's easy to process, That's there's some deep level guilt to feel in there. That's very, very painful. Oh, super joyful theme of the month. All right. So why would we want to do this? Why would we want to work on this? What is wrong with us? I love the way he explains it in his book. He explains how unprocessed guilt, unprocessed grief is unmetabolized sorrow. All right? So sorrow is your ability to feel, that sorrow of things that have happened. And until that gets metabolized, until that gets alchemized, until you go through it and you're able to hold it so deeply that it can start to transform, and that human faculty of grieving transforms these wounds into wisdom, transforms that pain into, a much deeper experience of life. We're just floating on the surface, Until we go all the way deep in that, we are just floating on the surface, and we're having this little surface life. Most of you aren't having a surface life because you come in these calls and these are pretty deep. But when you look around you, a lot of people that seem happy, that's not really what's going on. They're just floating up there, and some waves make them feel really good, and other waves make them feel really bad, and then they're just trying to stay there, trying to float and not drown, Whereas what we want to do, we don't want to drown, but we do need to go into these depths, because that's how you anchor your soul. That's how your soul can actually anchor itself in your body. Just like your psyche longs so deeply to not feel separated and isolated and have a part of me over there that I'm not supposed to feel, and a part over there that's hurting, but I'm supposed to just take care of my little life. Or it longs for that bringing everything back together so bad, just like your soul longs to be able to come into this body. It's very interesting. It's like the human side and the soul side, they mirror each other. The soul longs to be able to inhabit this body. And a body that is full of unprocessed grief, of unmetabolized sorrow, is not a body that can house the soul. Your natural state is of joy. Yeah. How far are we from that most of the time? That is literally your natural state. What I like to call love, joy, and flow. That's what, if there was no unprocessed grief, if all the sorrow in you had been metabolized, joy is the outcome. It's not even something we need to go for. Oh, I need to be happy. No. You come deeply into the space where that grief is. You come and hold that sorrow and let it know that you're willing to hear it and hold it. And the transmutation that happens is one where your soul's like, yes, yes. And what it longs for so much, it gets to finally be able to come in you, and you finally become able to feel the joyful dance and celebration of all of life. So I don't know about you, but wow. Like, yeah. So I have a really cool meditation process that we're going to do tonight. We've done it before. There's maybe one of the people on the call has never done this, but we're going to do some campfire, and we're actually going to meet and converse with the different parts of us that hold these different types of grief. You know, because like they might be collective in nature, but within you, within your psyche, there are representations of the parts of you that hold that for you. They hold that so that you don't have to be aware of it. They hold that so that you don't collapse into it. Because if all we are is this little thing floating on top of the iceberg that's like coming out of the water, most of that stuff, if we're just that little thing on top there, we wouldn't be able to process it. You know, your ego and your little conscious self that you walk around in the world with, your persona, is not able to process the depths of grief that this involves. But your being is more than able. Your being is pure energy. Your being is made of love. So there's that ego, but there's that deeper being. And that's what we want to work with. So we'll do some campfire, and yeah, I've got a couple of nice things in store in the campfire for us. Before Yeah, okay, so something else I want to say. In almost every culture before our modern culture, there were rites and rituals. There were ways to process this grief. There was a level of togetherness, you know, whether it be being able to come to the fire every night and, you know, like eat with the entire village and have space where you were received as you were, you know, that existed in almost every culture. Like right now I live in Mexico, and even like just 2 days ago, they had their Day of the Dead. You know, it's like this big celebration where they celebrate and honor all of the ancestors. You know, we don't do things like that much in our little modern capitalistic societies, you know. So for us, a lot of these griefs are even deeper than they used to be, because even that is part of what we expected as beings incarnating on Earth that we did not receive. To be born in settings where all of us and everything could go through us and be welcomed through us. So what we're left with in our world most of the time is people don't know what's going on, but they're seeking and they're seeking and they're seeking for something. They're seeking for what's going to make them happy. They're seeking for what's going to make them safe. They're seeking for this. That seeking is related to that deeper longing of like, I'm looking for something and I don't know where it is. You know, like I'm looking for a level of soul connection that I'm not finding anywhere. And it leaves us feeling like more and more fragile and unsafe, you know. And your survival brain and your limbic brain are the parts of your brain that take care of your physical survival. So here they are in contexts where I don't know, like about 80% of what we truly are is completely ignored and dismissed. And this puts us in a state of constant anxiety. Whether or not we're fully aware of it, most of us are in a state of constant anxiety. We're just really good at coping with it. We're really good at acting like it's we can deal with it, you know, and that has made us really strong and right on, you know, good for us. But at a certain point, like, we need to go in there and feel these things. And it's just like, I want to remind you that for these parts of your brain, physical pain and feeling emotional discomfort are pretty much the same thing. And they pretty much both equate to, that's going to kill me. So that's what we're playing with while we're trying to go into the grief. Okay, there's like there's a gatekeeper. That's what I'll call it, you know? Like, we've got that conscious gatekeeper, which is the ego. That's kind of like, no, I don't want to feel that. Don't want to feel that. I want to feel powerful and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But we've got an unconscious gatekeeper as well. It's called our survival system. And it's really, really, it's not our enemy. It's doing its best to protect us. And for your survival system, it is not able to understand the difference between lion over there could eat me, threat to my life, and feeling all the pain the world carries. It can't tell the difference. Like, these are both threats to your life, but it's not true. It's not true. It won't kill you to feel that, even if it feels like it will, because your survival brain is the one that's bringing up that feeling like, oh my God, you know. I remember years ago when I was trying to work on some of that stuff, the way my ego spun the information, because that's what your ego does, it makes up stories about it, about that deeper feeling, was that if I go there, I will be annihilated. And that became, I am unforgivable for I don't know what that I did, and God will pulverize me into a million pieces if I even have, you know, the audacity to try to come back home to him. So that was the ego construction, this big story that came about to try to explain and express a much deeper feeling, which was my survival brain, which doesn't have words, you know. It's just like, danger, you know. It's like, danger, you're gonna be ripped to shreds if you go there, like, but it's not saying it with words, right? And then your little ego dude here is like, oh, well, this is what's really going on, and it makes up this big story. And then we're like, oh my God, really? And then we believe the story, and then oh boy, and then we're like spinning here, and we don't know how to come back here. Yeah, what a great theme. All right, so I will give you a chance to get yourself nice and comfortable. If you need to go to the bathroom, go now, because we're going in for a good hour and 15 minutes. Campfire, pen and paper, please, because we are going to be meeting the parts of you that hold these different forms of grief. And I want to do a lot of work around the energy between you and them. So we can clear the energy between you and them so that you can re-become friends, allies. So you can re-become one. All right. Yay.